You are aging right now, not slowly, not gently, right now while you watch this. But here is what your doctor rarely has time to fully explain. How fast you age is not written in stone. It is not just the number of candles on your birthday cake. It is shaped in large part by something you do every single night, or more accurately, something you are not doing. If you are in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, the gap between the sleep your body needs and the sleep it actually gets has likely been growing for years. You feel it, the stiffness that lingers in the morning, the mental fog that lasts until midday, the sense that your body feels older than your age suggests. What I want to show you today is this. None of this is random, and it is not irreversible. I am Dr. Hayes Anderson, and after 22 years in senior health, I have seen firsthand what accelerated aging looks like when the sleep connection is ignored, and how dramatically that trajectory can change when it is finally understood. Here is what we are going to cover. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what is happening inside your body during sleep that determines how quickly or slowly you age. At the cellular level, not just the surface level. I am going to walk you through 6 specific mechanisms that connect poor sleep directly to faster biological aging. I have ranked them in order, from significant to the one at the end that I need you to stay for, because it is the mechanism that ties everything else together, and it is the one almost nobody explains in a way that is practical and actionable. And at the very end, I will give you 5 specific things you can do tonight, not next month, tonight, that will start shifting this process in the right direction. But before we get there, I need to address something that comes up in nearly every conversation I have with patients about sleep. Most people believe they already know what they need to know. They know they should get 7 or 8 hours. They know screens at night are bad. They know that a bad night leaves them tired. What they do not know, what almost no one explains clearly enough, is what is actually happening inside their cells while they sleep. Or more precisely, what is not happening when sleep is disrupted. The reason your doctor has not connected all of these dots for you is not negligence. The average appointment runs about 15 minutes. There is time to check your numbers, adjust your medications, and send you on your way. There is almost never time to explain the cellular biology of nighttime repair. That conversation falls through the cracks. And when it does, people keep assuming that the tired, stiff, foggy version of themselves is just what getting older feels like. It is not. So let us start with what sleep is actually doing inside you while you sleep. 1. The cellular cleanup system, and what happens when it shuts down. Your body has a waste removal system that most people have never heard of. It is called the glymphatic system. Think of it as the overnight sanitation crew for your brain. During deep sleep, the brain's support cells shrink slightly, and the spaces between them expand by as much as 60%. This creates channels through which cerebrospinal fluid can flow in, wash through brain tissue, and flush out the metabolic waste products that accumulated during the day, including toxic proteins that, when they build up over time, have been directly linked to cognitive decline and neurodegenerative disease. When you sleep poorly, 5 or 6 broken hours instead of 7 or 8 solid ones, this system does not run at full capacity. The cleanup crew shows up short-staffed, works half a shift, and leaves before the job is finished. You wake up foggy. The fog clears eventually, but the accumulation does not fully clear. Night after night, the cumulative burden builds in a way that accelerates biological aging in the brain faster than almost any other single factor. I had a patient, Raymond, 68, retired engineer, sharp as anyone I have ever met. He came to me not for cognitive concerns, but for persistent fatigue that no one had been able to explain. His labs were unremarkable. But when we sat down and really talked through his sleep, it became clear he had been averaging about 5.5 hours a night for over a decade. He had adapted to it. He had stopped noticing how tired he actually was because tired had become his baseline. Within 8 weeks of genuinely addressing his sleep, Raymond told me he felt like someone had turned the lights back on inside his head. That is the glymphatic system running at proper capacity. That is what overnight cellular cleanup actually feels like when it is working. But the glymphatic system is just the beginning. 2. Growth hormone, the repair signal your body sends only while you sleep. Growth hormone is your body's primary repair and maintenance signal. It directs cellular tissue repair, supports muscle preservation, regulates fat metabolism, and plays a central role in keeping your body structurally sound as you age. And the vast majority of your daily growth hormone release happens during deep sleep. In the first 90 minutes after you fall asleep, your body releases the largest hormone pulse of the entire 24-hour cycle. By your 60s, you are already producing significantly less growth hormone than you did at 40. That is biological reality. But the research shows that the degree of decline is dramatically worsened by poor sleep quality. Studies comparing older adults with good sleep versus poor sleep find that those with disrupted sleep have growth hormone profiles that look a decade or more older than their chronological age. Poor sleep does not just fail to compensate for the natural decline, it accelerates it. The practical consequence shows up as muscle mass that is harder to maintain, tissue that takes longer to recover from the ordinary wear and tear of daily life, joints that feel older than they should. But growth hormone release is acutely responsive to sleep quality improvement. You do not need to be 30 years old to trigger a meaningful repair pulse. You need deep, uninterrupted sleep, and that is something we can work with. 3. Cortisol and the overnight reset. What poor sleep does to your stress chemistry. Your body runs on a cortisol rhythm. Cortisol should be at its lowest overnight, then rise gradually in the early morning to help you wake and engage with the day. When sleep is poor, that rhythm breaks down. Cortisol stays elevated longer into the evening. It rises too sharply, too early in the night, and critically, it does not drop far enough during the overnight hours to allow the deep restorative processes, tissue repair, cellular maintenance, immune recalibration, to run without interference. High cortisol suppresses those processes. It is like trying to do maintenance work on a road with heavy traffic still moving through it. Chronically elevated cortisol accelerates what researchers call inflammaging, the low-grade chronic systemic inflammation that is one of the most well-documented drivers of biological aging. It worsens insulin sensitivity, it erodes muscle tissue, and it creates a feedback loop. Poor sleep raises cortisol, high cortisol worsens sleep. Night after night, the cycle deepens. Margaret was 73 when she first came to my practice. She had been managing blood pressure for several years, eating well, walking regularly, doing everything she was supposed to do. But her pressure was still running higher than we wanted, and she felt, as she put it, wound up in a way she could not explain. When we tracked her sleep in detail, she was waking 2 or 3 times most nights and rarely consolidating more than 4 or 5 hours. Her cortisol profile was dysregulated in exactly the way I just described. We addressed sleep as the primary lever. Within 3 months, her blood pressure had improved more than it had from any previous dietary or lifestyle change. The wound-up feeling had substantially resolved. The cortisol rhythm had reset. Sleep was the lever that everything else depended on. 4. Inflammation, the silent accelerant. Chronic low-grade inflammation is not the kind you see and feel, the redness and swelling of an acute injury. It is invisible, silent, cellular. It operates through signaling molecules called cytokines, and it creates a background state of biological stress that, sustained over years, ages tissues throughout the body faster than they would otherwise age. Research on the kind of chronic, mild sleep deprivation most seniors experience, 5 or 6 hours instead of 7 or 8, consistently shows elevated inflammatory markers within days. In one landmark study, just 1 week of 6-hour sleep raised measurable levels of C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, the same markers chronically elevated in accelerated cardiovascular aging, cognitive decline, and deteriorating joint health. But here is what I need you to understand about the directionality. Poor sleep does not just produce inflammation. Inflammation worsens sleep. Pain from inflamed joints disturbs sleep. Disrupted sleep raises inflammatory cytokines. Higher inflammation increases pain sensitivity, which disturbs sleep further. People often come to me focused entirely on managing the inflammation, the joint pain, the stiffness, the fatigue, without ever addressing the sleep disruption that is feeding it. Addressing inflammation without addressing sleep is like trying to bail out a boat without plugging the hole. The hopeful part: improving sleep quality produces measurable reductions in inflammatory markers within weeks. The body's natural anti-inflammatory processes run most actively during deep sleep. They are not broken. They are suppressed by poor sleep. Restore the sleep, restore the process. 5. Telomere shortening, the biological clock that sleep directly affects. Your chromosomes have protective caps on their ends, like the plastic tips on shoelaces, called telomeres. Every time a cell divides, those telomeres shorten slightly. When they become too short, the cell can no longer divide properly. It becomes what scientists call senescent, a dysfunctional cell that releases inflammatory signals into surrounding tissue. The accumulation of senescent cells is one of the central mechanisms of biological aging. Telomere length is now considered one of the most meaningful measures of biological age, not how old you are chronologically, but how old your cells actually are. Multiple large population studies have found that people who consistently sleep fewer than 6 hours a night have measurably shorter telomeres than people who sleep 7 to 8, even after controlling for diet, exercise, and smoking. The association holds across different populations and different health backgrounds. The mechanism involves oxidative stress. During deep restorative sleep, the body deploys its antioxidant repair systems to neutralize the reactive oxygen species that accumulate during waking hours. When sleep is consistently cut short, that repair does not fully run. Oxidative damage accumulates. Telomeres shorten faster. A body with shorter telomeres is, at the cellular level, aging faster, period. This is not destiny. Research on interventions that improve sleep quality has found corresponding improvements in oxidative stress markers. The repair systems work when given the opportunity to run. The opportunity is sleep. 6. The master mechanism: circadian biology and why timing is everything. This is the one I want you to stay for, because everything I have described, the glymphatic cleanup, the growth hormone pulse, the cortisol rhythm, the inflammatory reset, the telomere repair, none of it happens in isolation. All of it is orchestrated by a single master system, your circadian biology. You have a biological clock in a tiny region of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and it runs on a roughly 24-hour cycle. But it does not just keep time. It coordinates the timing of virtually every biological process in your body: hormone release, immune function, cell division, tissue repair, even the repair of your DNA itself. Everything runs on a schedule synchronized to the light-dark cycle of your environment. When that alignment is intact, all of the downstream repair processes run on schedule. When the clock is disrupted by irregular sleep timing, by artificial light at night, by insufficient natural daylight, the consequences cascade through every system I have described. This is why sleep science researchers increasingly talk about sleep not just as a quantity problem, hours, but as a quality and timing problem. 7 hours at irregular times, with light disrupting the circadian signal, produces meaningfully different biological outcomes than 7 hours at a consistent schedule aligned with natural light. Dorothy was 71, a retired school teacher who came to me frustrated. She was sleeping what she thought was a reasonable amount, usually 7 hours, but felt perpetually unrefreshed. She woke up tired. The day never quite cleared. Multiple providers had told her that her labs were fine, and she should accept this as how sleep felt in her 70s. When we looked carefully at her patterns, the issue was not duration, it was timing and light. She was staying up until midnight or 1 in the morning, watching television with the lights on until she fell asleep, then sleeping until 7 or 8. The total hours were there, but her circadian signal was suppressed every evening. Her body clock was running hours behind its natural alignment, and the orchestrated repair sequence was starting too late and running compressed. Within 6 weeks of shifting her schedule and changing her evening light environment, Dorothy told me she had not felt this rested since her 50s. Same hours, completely different biology, because the timing had been corrected. This is the master mechanism. You cannot fix the glymphatic cleanup without the circadian signal that turns it on. You cannot restore the growth hormone pulse without the deep sleep stage that triggers it. You cannot reset the cortisol rhythm without consistent, properly timed sleep. The circadian clock is the conductor. When it is in alignment, the orchestra plays. When it is not, everything runs off tempo. None of these 6 mechanisms feel dangerous in the moment. A bad night's sleep feels like tiredness, not like accelerated telomere shortening, not like suppressed growth hormone, not like a glymphatic system that did not complete its cleanup. The consequences are invisible until they are not, until the fog has been present so long it feels permanent, until the aging that was quietly being accelerated finally becomes visible in your joints, your labs, your face. I am not sharing this to frighten you. I am sharing it because understanding these mechanisms means you are no longer guessing. You know what is at stake, and you know it is not too late to shift the direction. 5 things you can do tonight. Step 1. Set a sleep and wake time and protect it every single day, including weekends. Your circadian clock synchronizes through consistency. Irregular timing is one of the most underappreciated drivers of disruption. Pick a wake time that works for your life. Back calculate 7.5 to 8 hours, and treat both as non-negotiable. The first week will require adjustment. After 10 to 14 days, your body will begin anticipating the schedule, and the transition into sleep will become noticeably easier. Step 2. Get 10 to 15 minutes of natural daylight within an hour of waking up. Morning light is the primary signal that sets your circadian clock for the day. Without it, the clock drifts. A short morning walk, sitting near a window with your coffee, standing on your porch. Outdoor daylight on a cloudy day is still 10 to 50 times brighter than indoor lighting. This single habit is one of the most powerful circadian anchors available to you. Step 3. Begin dimming your environment 1 to 2 hours before your target bedtime. Bright artificial light in the evening suppresses melatonin and delays the circadian signal that initiates sleep. You do not need to sit in the dark. You need to reduce the intensity. Use lamps rather than overhead lights. Sit further from the television screen. The goal is to give your circadian system the signal it is waiting for. Darkness is coming. Prepare for the repair sequence. Step 4. Stop eating 2 to 3 hours before bed. The digestive process raises core body temperature and keeps metabolic activity elevated at a time when the body needs to be transitioning into the lower metabolic state that enables deep sleep. It also triggers insulin release, and elevated insulin in the evening competes with the repair processes that growth hormone initiates. An early, lighter dinner is not just a weight management strategy. It is a sleep quality strategy with direct effects on the biological repair window. Step 5. If you wake during the night and cannot return to sleep within 20 minutes, get out of bed. Go to a dim room, sit quietly, do something calm and low stimulus, and return when you genuinely feel sleepy. Lying in bed awake for extended periods trains your brain to associate the bed with wakefulness and frustration. Over time, this erodes sleep quality in ways that compound significantly. Getting up breaks that association and preserves the bed as a sleep cue. It feels difficult in the short term. It works reliably in the longer term. And one more thing before you go. Talk to your doctor about your sleep. Not just whether you are sleeping, but about the quality. Ask whether you have ever been evaluated for sleep apnea, which is dramatically underdiagnosed in people over 60, and which directly disrupts the deep sleep stages where most of the repair mechanisms I described actually occur. If you snore, if you wake up unrefreshed even after adequate hours, if your partner has ever noticed you stop breathing briefly during the night, that conversation matters. Sleep apnea is treatable. Treating it changes the trajectory in ways that are measurable in quality of life, cardiovascular health, and cognitive function. Your biological age is not a fixed number. It is a dynamic outcome shaped by the signals you give your body night after night. Poor sleep does not just make you tired. It suppresses the systems that repair you and accelerates the processes that age you, quietly, invisibly, in ways that accumulate over years before they become visible. But biology responds when you give it the conditions it needs. The repair systems are not gone. They are waiting. You have more control over how fast your body ages than anyone has probably ever told you. Sleep is the most powerful lever most people are not using. Start tonight. Now I want to hear from you. What is the single biggest obstacle to your sleep right now? Falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking too early and not being able to get back down? Leave your answer in the comments below. The most common answers you give me are exactly what I am going to address in upcoming videos. Your feedback builds this channel. And if someone you care about, a spouse, a sibling, an adult child, has been dismissing their poor sleep as just part of getting older, please share this video with them. That belief is costing them. And the research is clear enough now that there is no good reason for anyone to go on thinking sleep problems are simply the price of aging. In the next video, I am going deep on chronic inflammation, because it is not just a side effect of poor sleep. It is one of the most powerful and most underestimated accelerators of every age-related disease condition we see in seniors. The specific foods, habits, and interventions that address it are not what most people expect. That video is coming soon. If you do not want to miss it, make sure you are subscribed.